Okay, so you joined me today to talk about a very riveting topic. I know we're going to be talking about cold email in 2025, how things have changed a little bit, and I guess just going through a full run through of all the different tools and softwares that we use for our approach, and just to give that away to you in as quicker and as easy to understand way as I possibly can do. So ultimately, when we're looking at cold email, we're looking at 6 main components, right? And those components are, we've got infrastructure, we've got list building, we've then got copywriting, we've then got automation, performance, and then finally follow-ups or lead handover, if you want to call it that. So these are the 6 different segments that we're going to be focusing on today. And we're just going to deep dive into everything and look at some of the different tools that we're using for each one of these stages. So first things first, what we want to talk about is obviously our infrastructure. So when I term infrastructure, what does that actually mean? Well, an infrastructure is ultimately the email accounts and the domains that we're going to be sending our outreach from. So if you're not familiar on what a domain is ultimately what you'd typically find a website on. So example.com, whatever your website is hosted on, you usually buy domains from something like GoDaddy or Namecheap, something like that. And when we're looking at creating an email campaign to start emailing our ideal clients, we do something that's called purchasing secondary domains. So say, for example, if your domain is, faroutrecruitment.com, right? That's your main domain that your website is hosted on. What you may do when you're looking at setting up an email campaign is you might get some variations of this domain for you to use as secondary domains to send outreach from. And the reason that we do that, the reason that we don't just use one single domain, the one that your website is hosted on, to actually send outreach, is because if you do that, you can affect your SEO reputation of your main site, right? So we don't want to do that. What we want to do is we want to set up a series of secondary domains to ultimately act as our Trojan horses, to be the ones that are sending the outreach for us. So say, for example, if my domain was this, I might go and purchase a load of domains that are like this, for example. So faroutrecruitmenthq.com, faroutrecruitmentteam.com, go far out recruitment, loads of different permutations that we can create, and these are what are called secondary domains. So the first thing that we do when we set up a cold email infrastructure is we're looking at creating secondary domains to send our outreach from. So once we've got those domains, we then obviously need to set up some sender accounts to actually send our emails from. And there are tons and tons of different options for this. Obviously, the most common ones that you're going to know will be just standard admin consoles. So things like, Google Workspace is the main one. It's going to make me sign in. Here we are, we're back in the game. So yeah, Google Admin Console, you can set up email accounts in here at these domains. That's usually the most common way, but it's also one of the more expensive ways. What you can also do is you can look at sites like cheapinboxes.com, app.inboxlogy.com, and then also inboxautomate.com to ultimately set up what we call reseller accounts. So these 3 softwares that I've just showed you here are what we call Google resellers, and they make it really easy for you to set up email accounts just automatically and instantly. So it means that you can get a much smaller time to market by being able to set these things up in a few clicks and then just be ready to start sending outreach from just whenever that warm-up period lasts, which is usually between 2 to 3 weeks. So there's loads of different options for setting up email accounts. The ones that we use, like I said, cheapinboxes.com, inboxlogy.com, and also Inboxautomate. These are what we call resellers that are ultimately doing the exact same thing as what we do when we set it up ourselves within like our Google Admin Console or Microsoft 365 Admin. But it's doing it instantly all for us. We don't have to go through that manual rigmarole of actually setting all that stuff up. So that's how or I guess they're the softwares that are needed and required to actually set up secondary domains and then also to create some email accounts to send our outreach from. Once those accounts are created, what we can do is we can use something that's called email account warm-up. And ultimately what an email warm-up system does is these new accounts that you've just created, within GoDaddy and with these resellers that I just showed you. The next thing that we need to do is warm up those email accounts so that they ultimately don't go to spam when we start outreaching through them. So what a warm-up pool does is it ultimately sends emails between other emails in that warm-up pool, and it will take your emails out of spam if one of them goes into a spam folder. Now, what does that mean for improving your results? Well, it basically means that when you start sending to real people, the rate at which you are going to appear in their inbox rather than their spam folder is going to be much higher. So ultimately, a warm-up pool is improving the reputation of your domains and your accounts so that when you start outreaching to real people, the chances of you landing in that inbox are much higher. So we use our own tool called send.danbymarketingservices.com to do all this. A lot of our customers, when they sign up with us, they will get access to their own private software just so that we can purely focus on having their deliverability optimized for them. We don't have to share it with a load of different other customers. It's just dedicated to your business entirely. So that's how to set up accounts and also what a warm-up pool does. The next thing that we're going to be looking at is going to be how do we actually build lists of people to reach out to. So the most common ones at the moment are obviously LinkedIn Sales Navigator and then also Apollo.io. But something that a lot of people don't talk about at the moment is web scraping. So this is a tool called Apify, and what it allows us to do is it allows us to scrape tools like Apollo and Sales Navigator without actually having to have a paid license within any of these tools. So with Apify, what we have is, if I just jump into here, within Apify we have a load of different actors, including this Apollo scraper here, where what we can do is just import the Apollo search URL on the free plan. So, just put in your typical filters, demographics, and then just come into here and import the URL of that Apollo search. And then this scraper will pull all of those leads for you from Apollo without you actually needing to be signed up to a paid account. And it's the same with Sales Navigator. We're currently exploring a tool called Boomerang at the moment. And Boomerang's looking at ways where it can allow you to export LinkedIn Sales Navigator leads with unlimited profiles getting scraped per day. So I think in terms of list building, scrapers, including the ones at Apify, including the ones at Boomerang, are definitely the future of list building in my opinion. But we can't talk about the future of list building without giving a mention to clay.com. So clay.com is ultimately, you've probably heard of it before, it's really revolutionizing how go-to-market is done for small teams, basically. A lot of the struggles before having Clay were that when we were reaching out to people, we had no idea if the people that we were reaching out to would actually bang on our ICP. There was no way that we could use signals or use AI to enrich our lists to make sure that we were only outreaching to the people who were bang on for our business. And with Clay, we now can. So this is a Clay table here. It ultimately just looks like a fancy spreadsheet. And this is just a list of leads that we're getting ready to outreach to. There's 2,000 leads here in total. And what we want to do within Clay is we just want to set up some enrichments that are going to allow us to just make sure that the people in this list are bang on our ICP. So what we can do here is we can perform what's called web research using Clay to basically pull a description of the company, and we can then use AI to determine whether or not the company that we're reaching out to is going to be an ideal client for us. So we can get an AI to analyze the company description, determine that it's going to be our ICP based on keyword matches. And the reason that we do this is to make sure that the copy that we're sending out is going out to only the right people. One of the big reasons that emails go to spam is because people will manually put you in the spam folder, right? So therefore we can conclude that if you want to inbox in more of your ideal clients' inboxes, just take out the people from your lists that aren't going to be your ICP. And usually that happens when you just scrape Sales Nav, scrape Apollo, and do nothing with those lists. Don't AI enrich them or anything. That's what causes people to be in that list who aren't bang on who you want to be reaching out to, right? So Clay.com is a tool that allows you to make sure that all the people that you're reaching out to are going to be bang on your ICP. The next thing that Clay allows us to do is waterfall enrich emails. So obviously we can't outreach to anyone unless we have their emails. In here, what we can do is we can use Clay to use waterfall logic to ultimately find emails for our ideal clients, right? So we can put a list into here. We've got a various amount of emails that we already found, and then what we can do is just use waterfall logic to go and find any missing emails that are possible to find. And you can see that in total we have quite a heavy find rate here of all the emails for this big list. So the next thing that we're going to be looking at then, that's an introduction into Clay.com. The next element that we're going to be looking at is obviously copywriting. So we need to know what messaging we're actually sending to these people. So these are a few examples from some of our clients. Whenever we write copy, what the goal is to write in a way that's short and engaging, but we also want to do things like making sure that the subject line that we send raises a question in the recipient's mind where they're thinking, could this be a client or could this be something internal? If you give away that you're trying to sell to them straight away in the subject line, then it's just going to get put into the spam folder realistically. So whenever we write copy, with the first lines, with the subject line, we're always making it seem as though that this could be a customer and it could be a colleague of theirs. Obviously, as they get further into the email, they will realise that it's not a colleague or it's not a client, but the goal is that it's that initial attention grab that we're going after. A lot of your email getting read, getting opened and getting replied to is just whatever the person sees within the first literally 5 seconds of just scanning your email, right? So it's really important. And here are just some example copywriting approaches that we might use for just a couple of our clients. You can see that they're really short, focus on just social proof, soft call to actions. You know, we're not asking for calls or anything from these people. We're just seeing if they'd like to see a PDF. The goal of this initial email is to just start a conversation with someone. And that is what your copywriting and any cold email copywriting in 2025 should be focusing on. So the next thing then is automation. And the tool that we use for this is called Email Bison. You can also use Smartlead.ai, you can use Instantly.ai as well. But ultimately what you want next is a tool that allows you to automate this outreach to your ideal customers at scale. So you can see in here, this is our campaign setup. We have a bunch of contacts in here. We've got around 2,500 contacts. We've then got an automated sequence with spin tags to then send to people. We've then got a schedule where we want the emails to be sent between. We've then got some settings, so how many emails we want to send per day, how many new email sequences we want to start per day. So this basically means we're going to send 500 emails, and then I want to focus on sending 400 new sequences, and then 100 of those 500 can then just be dedicated to follow-up emails. The stats, this is just our campaign stats here. We can view this on different time frames, which I'm going to show you later on. We've then got the replies, so interested, automated, everything can be managed from one master inbox like that. Back into here, we've then got the email accounts associated with the campaign, so all of these are set up in here. You can add email accounts, as many as you want, to then just basically compound into the total sending volume that you have per day for that campaign. So that's ultimately just a quick overview of what an automation tool looks like. Whenever we're looking at setting up a cold email campaign in 2025, we want to make sure that we have a automation tool to allow us to ultimately take what's already working on a manual scale and turn that into something automated like the campaign that I just showed you there. On the note of automation tools, we then also want to make sure that we have a tool at our backs like Email Guard to make sure that our emails are actually landing within the inbox folder. So you can see in Email Guard, we've got various tools like inbox placement tests, spam filter tests, blacklist checks, DMARC monitoring, loads of different tools that if you're not sure of what these things do, you don't have to worry, because this is something that we will take care of for you as our customer. But ultimately, we want to use a tool like Email Guard, because 3 years ago we could just send mass outreach and land in the inbox and it will be totally fine. It'll be fine and dandy. But in today's landscape, it's just not possible, and we need to have these tools at our backs to be able to make sure that we're landing in the inbox. If we're not landing in the inbox, having this tool allows us to spot that. It means that we can take action on it much sooner and implement some fixes. So that's an introduction into automation. The next thing I'm going to be looking at with you is performance. So in our sequencer, what you will usually have, whatever you use, is you'll have a performance tracker like this. So you'll be able to see the number of emails sent, the total people contacted, the number of replies. You'll be able to view this on different scales as well. So this is just our client levels breathwork. Tristan, awesome dude. If you want to look at high performance, coaching, breathwork, anything to do with that sort of thing, then I'd really encourage you reaching out to Tristan as well. Awesome guy. But here, this is just an example of what a campaign dashboard looks like for one of our customers. And you'll get this, regardless of whatever tool that you use. It could be Smartlead instantly or Email Bison as well. This is how you can track the top level metrics to make sure that your campaigns are ultimately performing well. Our KPI is typically 4% reply rate and then a 20% interested reply rate as well. The next thing that we're going to be discussing then is follow-ups and how we actually enable you to handle these responses in real time. Okay, so we use Slack to manage all of our communications with our clients, and regardless of whatever you're using, the goal of a follow-up system is for it to be as easy as possible for you to engage with these interested leads. And we want to try and engage with these interested leads as soon as they come into our pipeline. So this is how we've set it up for our clients in Slack. All of our customers will get a dedicated Slack channel that looks like this, and all of their replies, you can see we've had 2 here for Tristan, all of their replies will come through in real time to a Slack channel that looks like this. And what we've done for all of our customers is we've also set up an auto forwarder, so your actual email will be automatically CC'd into this conversation in real time for you to be able to handle that. What we also give you in these notifications, if we just click into a deal here, is we also give you the mobile phone number for that person. So whenever we get an interested response, we will waterfall enrich to find their mobile number, and we'll provide you with that here. So the goal of this screen is that you can call that person straight away, or maybe you can send them the asset that they requested, and then you can call this person the next day and have a chat with them, right? So you can see exactly what has been sent. So this was the first email. You can then see what they sent in their response. You can then just ring them straight away, and you can imagine in this case, we'd be saying, okay, so this person requested a PDF, I believe. So we would have then sent that person the PDF over on Slack. We can then just ring this person straight away, say, hey Roy, I sent you that PDF the other day. Interested if you're looking into breathwork or ways that you can perform better than a minute. It'd be great to just chew the fat for 15 if you've got some time, man. So it's like the things that we're doing with this handover system, the purpose of it is teeing up sales in as affordable and as effective way as possible for small businesses, because that's what this product that we've built is for. It's for small businesses who need a way to start conversations and generate them easily with their ideal clients in a way that's not a break in the bank or not some bullshit commission fairy model that promises a world but ultimately doesn't deliver. What we're focused on doing is just keeping things as you see them, as they come to you in this video. I don't know what words I was saying then, but as they appear to you in this video, that's how our service works, right? All those tools are the ones that we use that I showed you. This is exactly how our system works in Slack as well. What we then also do is give you a pipeline to manage all these conversations, because you might be thinking, well, it's all good me having this notification, in Slack for this person, but what if I wait a day before I call them and then I lose that conversation? I forget where the notification was, right? So we've built you your own completely free in-house CRM that you can also use to manage these leads as well. So you can see here, we've got just columns, standard columns. You've got all the information that you could ever possibly need on each deal. Click into this one here, you've got their mobile number. We've then got the conversation history here. We've then got, if we just go to deal info, you've then got all the information that you could need on the person, who the person is, the company. Click into this, you've got their website, just anything that you could possibly need, really. All the details are in here like this. You've got the LinkedIn profile of the person. Everything is all stored for you in your own Notion CRM, so you can manage things easily, seamlessly, all just under the one product as well. So ultimately, that was an overview video of the 6 core elements of a cold email system in 2025. I hope this has been helpful just for people to see and understand. And if anyone has any questions whatsoever, or if they're looking at, putting together an email system for yourself, for your own business, I'll be more than happy to talk through this with you in a way that's more specific to your company. And yeah, just have a chat about it for 15 minutes. So appreciate you watching the video. And like I said, any questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you.